Hello everybody, welcome to Coach's Barbecue. So I'm doing this video because I took some pictures and a small video and put it on the Slow and Low Facebook page, and I've gotten a lot of response and a lot of questions. So I thought, well hey, I'll just put together another video. I don't have plans per se, but I do have some pictures of the construction and stages that I'll post as well, along with this video. First of all, I want to say the main reason why I'm doing it is because when I first started to do this, it took me a long time to do it. I was pretty intimidated by doing it. But when I finally got my mind to it and I said, I'm going to do this, there was a ton of YouTube videos that really helped me out a lot and encouraged me that I could do it. Secondly, I want to say it doesn't have to be perfect. If you're like me, one of the reasons why it took me forever is I was so worried that it wasn't going to be perfect. By no means is this perfect. Right? And you can modify it however you want to modify your smoker. It's probably going to work just fine. So just get out there and do it. But the videos really super helped me a lot to see how the construction was. So I thought I would return the favor and show you what I did with this one. So let's talk about the construction. So this is a cinder block smoker. Okay. Now this is an indirect smoker. What I mean by that is we have a firebox and we have a smoke chamber. A lot of times you see these smokers or cookers, they're a direct coal. So the coals are actually underneath the meat. Kentucky and the southeast do that a lot. This is in Texas, we're more of indirect smoking. Okay, so again, we have a firebox and the smoke and the heat is pulled into the chamber. So the meat is cooked with only heat and smoke. There's no direct coals underneath it. So I think this is 3.5 by 4.5 cinder blocks, and we're basically 4 cinder blocks high. Inside I have a 4x8 sheet of expanded steel that I've cut to size, but it fits 48 inches just perfectly. You can see there's nothing that hangs out from the side. Okay, but let's start with the firebox and we'll move that way. Okay, so firebox construction is kind of the same thing. I've got some cinder blocks on the side that create the chamber for the wood. The door, I can take this off here. So this is plate steel. It's 3/16 of an inch plate steel. Okay, the door and the top of this box underneath these bricks is 3/16 plate. Okay, I placed a piece of angle iron on the bottom and the top so the door can kind of slide back and forth. You can probably see the mess down inside. I just got done cooking a brisket. I need to clean that out. But this way I can reach in there, I can put more fire in, back and forth, and clean it out and get to it. One of the things that I didn't do was this door doesn't have a damper cut on it. You might want to think about putting a damper on it. That helps regulate the oxygen that's going in here. You don't want to close the box off completely, because what happens then is you choke the fire out. It gets colder, believe it or not, and you also create a lot of creosote, and that really is bad tasting for the meat. You really want to have a nice clean smoke coming out of the top and a nice good fire that's putting the heat out. All right. So, let's go back on here. What I have found with this one, I didn't put a damper on it because once I'm getting a good heat and a good draw, I've noticed that I can just kind of leave it open a little bit like this and it pulls the oxygen in, and I don't really get a lot of smoke rolling out of it. So it works fine for me there. So cinder blocks, plate steel, horseshoes for handles, we're good to go. So let me slide over this way a little bit. I want to show you, you might see some kind of strange colors in between the cracks here. We're going to talk about that later, but I wanted to kind of make note of that. So let me go ahead and open this up. First let me talk about the lid. This is 14 gauge cold rolled steel. Now you can go with 16 gauge. It's a little less expensive and it's lighter, but the 14 gauge, as you can see, it's pretty straight. It doesn't bow. It's stiff enough that it's strong enough that it doesn't bow on you, and it's light enough that I can still move it around pretty easy. This was a 4x8 sheet that my buddy just cut with a plasma cutter. I believe it was around just under like 90 pounds or something. So that puts each side about 45. So it's relatively easy, you know, to move around. But that's something that you would want to consider, as how easily you want to be able to slide it. So if we come into here, you can see my graded steel. This is, I believe it's number 9 expanded metal, and it's flat metal. So they make this to when they cut it and they expand it, it actually has sharp edges, but you can do a flat sheet where they roll it through again and it flattens it all out. That's definitely the one you want to use, is the flat sheet. You don't want the sharp edges, because it will just destroy your meat. Get it in there. So as we're looking down in here, I don't know if you saw the bricks in here, but I didn't want this to be the really hot spot. So I placed some cinder blocks snug up against the firebox, and in the firebox area I rolled the cinder block, so just the hole, so the smoke comes through it. So this allows for the smoke to really kind of come more into the center of the box and not just stay right there. Okay, so as we come this way, you can see I have 4 levels of cinder blocks. On the 3rd level is where I laid the expanded steel. On the 3rd level it goes all the way across. Then I just put another brick on top of it, and then a 2-inch paved stone across the top, because you know these holes are exposed. But capping them with this, it also creates a smooth surface for the metal to slide over. Let's talk about the exhaust a little bit. This is actually a really critical, important part of the smoker. So with direct heat or direct coals, you can get away with just a little turning this brick over, which is what I did at first. I turned it over, but I wasn't getting heat and I wasn't getting enough smoke. I couldn't get the chamber to temperature. So I talked to a buddy, and he told me, well, you're not getting the fire hot enough because you're not getting enough draw. And you're not getting enough draw because you're not getting the fire hot enough. It's kind of a catch-22. So he told me, he said, you definitely need to have a stack on there, a smokestack on there. You have to have your exhaust pipe about 2 or 3 feet higher than where your fire is. So I went to Home Depot. I got the exhaust vent top that goes on your roof. Capped it so no rain gets down. About a 2.5 foot, 2 foot tube and a 90. And then I use spray foam, we'll talk about that here in a minute, to secure it into place. Once I got that on there, it does great. It creates a draw. So with the indirect, you have to something that creates a draw that pulls the heat and the smoke into the chamber across the meat and through. Again, with direct coals, you don't really have to worry about that. It's right over the coals. But in Texas, with the indirect smoke, you got to have something that's pulling that through. So this seems to take care of it just fine. So we talked about the inside, we talked about that. So one thing I want to talk about is maybe some of the things that helped me make this. So like I said, you probably saw some of the strange colors on the bricks. So this is something I picked up from Lowe's. It is a 3M fire block foam. It was $10. What's great about this is it resists up to 1300 degrees heat, and you spray about 1/3 of it that you want into the cracks and crevices, and then it expands out. That's what this kind of bubble and all this is what this created, and it seals it really good. Does a great job. The other thing I want to talk about is that was the orange you might have seen on the front of that. This is a 3M Fireblock sealant, kind of a caulking stick. It's a gray product. This is what I used to kind of seal some of the holes around the seams where I was getting some heavy smoke leaks. I used this and it did a great job. This was about $4 for this. All right, and then you probably can tell all the black that I painted. I just hit it with a regular old high heat paint. Again, I think it was $3 or $4 Rust-Oleum from Home Depot. Did a great job. Lastly, as far as products, is I want to talk about these guys. So what is critical with smoking, especially when you're doing indirect heat, is you have to it's all about maintaining the temperature of your chamber and keeping it between 220, well, really you want to keep it as close to 250 for the duration of the smoke as much as possible. You don't want a lot of heat spikes or drops. This helps you in managing that fire. Okay, so it's a two-piece deal. You have the transmitter first, and what's great about this one, I believe it's called Ready Check. Yeah, Ready Check. This was the Maverick 733, if I remember correctly. It has 2 probes to it, and the probes are hybrid probes. They can either be a meat probe, or they can be an ambient temperature probe. That's what I use it for. And what's great is it has 2 at the same time. So you can put one in the meat, one in the chamber. You can put 2 different areas of your smoker. You can have 2 separate pieces of meat. You can set up however you want. There's actually 14 different kinds of meat it has here with some presets. I set my own presets, and this is the transmitter. So these clips go to the little expanded grill, goes inside, and this sits on the ledge, and it transmits to the receiver. You don't have to use your phone. It comes directly to this. So this little receiver has about a 300 foot range to it, and you probably can't see it, but you have a top and a bottom. You have the chamber 1 and chamber 2, and it holds my presets. You might be able to see the presets on there, 275 and 220. I don't want it going any lower than that or any higher. So what happens is this monitors it, and it has an alarm to it. So if the temperature goes above or below, it lets me know. And what's great about this is I don't have to sit here for 14 hours and just stare at the fire. I can go inside, I can walk around, I can go different places if I need to. Critical. To me, this is kind of like the range finder of barbecuing, of smoking. Kind of like in bow hunting, you know, you got to have a range finder. That's your best friend. Right here, man, you got to have it. It's definitely worth getting. I got this on Amazon. I think it was $69, and it came with a set of barbecue gloves. So, did great there. The last thing that I want to just say is, again, I really appreciate all the videos that everybody else had, and it really helped me out a lot. I'm going to post the pictures of the stages of the construction, so I'll have that as well. If you have any questions or wondering about things, just message me or put it in the comments, and I'd be happy to answer those for you. But good luck with it. I hope you make one, and have some great barbecue.